Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, The Navy Nurse. In this episode, I talk about how I passed the CCRN on my first try. It's all about the CCRN, or Critical Care Registered Nurse for adults. In order to be eligible for the CCRN, you have to be providing direct care to acutely and critically ill patients. There's a 2-year option and there's a 5-year option. For the 2-year option, you have to have at least 1,750 hours of directly caring for critically ill adult patients during the previous 2 years. For the 5-year option, you have to have a minimum of 2,000 hours of direct care of critically ill patients, with 144 of those hours accrued in the most recent year. That's the most recent year that you're applying for the CCRN. Also, to be eligible, you have to have, of course, an unencumbered registered nurse license. The CCRN, it is a certification that is offered through the AACN, or American Association of Critical Care Nurses. The exam costs $245 for AACN members, or $360 for non-members. I do recommend becoming a member of AACN. They have a ton of resources and literature, access to journal articles, webinars, seminars, where you can get the most latest and greatest information for the critical care environment. So I totally think that it is a good investment. So why should you get your CCRN as a Navy nurse in particular? So for the CCRN, if number one, you're studying for it so you'll enhance your critical care knowledge base and show that you are committed to providing safe, quality care for your patients. I found that when I was studying the material for the CCRN, when I went to work, a lot of things made more sense to me. And then vice versa. I had cared for patients and then I would read more about it in the CCRN study guides, and it brings it all together. It makes everything make sense. So it's really, even though it sucks to study and the test is hard, when you're studying for it, it's truly a valuable experience. You're definitely not wasting your time. A second reason why to get your CCRN, it helps when applying for opportunities such as certain deployments and operational assignments. Another reason to get the CCRN is a big one, is a critical care bonus. So right now, the Navy is offering retention bonuses for critical care nurses, and it's different amounts depending on how many years you're willing to serve the Navy. So for example, we have 2 years for $10,000, 3 years for $15,000, 4 years for $20,000, and then we have 6 years for $35,000. So all these, they're paid annually for the amount of years that you agree to. So that's a really big incentive to get your CCRN. So for myself, I started studying 3 months in advance before my exam. I actually scheduled my exam before I started studying, like, head on, because I wanted to have a goal date. For me, if I just am studying and I don't have a goal date, then I feel like my studying, it's just not as good as when I have an end date and I'm like, okay, this is when I need to be done studying by. So I recommend setting your date that you're going to take your exam and then base your studying on that date. Um, I only used the Laura Gasparis-Vonfrolio study material. So I used her videos and the book called Critical Care Examination Review, fourth edition, by Laura Gasparis-Vonfrolio and Lee Taylor-Vaughan. It's that thick green book that has like a lot of questions and rationales. Practicing the questions over and over and reading and taking notes on the rationales was the most helpful for me. The videos were super helpful for um, just the lecture part. They served as lectures to learn about the different systems covered on the test. The videos, they look old. They look like they were made in like the 1980s, but those are the right videos. The content was super relevant and helpful. And I just like took my test in 2020. So for right now, it is helpful. By the way, I found out that I passed my CCRN 2 weeks ago, so still very relevant. So with the videos, there were 5 videos that I watched. They covered endocrine, neuro, GI, renal, hematological, pulmonary, and cardiovascular. The actual CC exam, it is broken down into those categories, but also to include multi-system and psychosocial ethical considerations. Um, Cardiovascular and pulmonary, by far, they do account for most of the test questions, but don't sleep on the ethical and social considerations. There were quite a few on those. So the way I started with the systems that counted for the least amount on the test. So I saved cardio and pulmonary for last. Then I put all of my notes together and reread them, and then I memorized lab values, rationales, and illnesses like DIC, DKA, the renal system, SIADH, to name a few. I also memorized anatomy because I found that that helped a lot. I memorized like signs and symptoms of specific things like Cushing's triad, and then I studied the ECG and what each lead means and all of that. That's just some examples. There's a lot more, but just some examples. Um, when I was watching the videos, I would watch the video and take notes. The videos were awesome because the Laura Gasparis, she's super intriguing, she's funny, and a lot of the things she said and the way she said it made me remember certain things. So I watched the videos, took notes. That was like the lecture part, and then I literally did the whole book, that whole thick green book, the Critical Care Examination Review. I did all of the questions, and then I would write certain things down that I felt like I couldn't remember and I needed to study more. But the questions, super helpful. And then I would study for about, I'd say on average, 4 hours a day on my days off. While I was working, like, I worked 12-hour shifts. It wasn't, I don't know, I'd be tired, or if I was working and had a little bit of downtime, I would read a couple questions or reread what I already wrote. But most of the bulk of my studying were on my days off. And like I said, I would spend about 4 hours studying on those days. That's not to say that I didn't take days off. Of course, I have a family, I have kids, I needed to spend time with them as well. So I did take, some days off, but when it was study time, it's like I was in a room by myself, quiet, studying, or I would go to Starbucks right across the street and just have me time to study. Um, on test day. Okay, so test day, my test was scheduled at 09:30 or 9:30 a.m. in the morning. I woke up early. For me personally, I did a 15-minute yoga and meditation session. So I've been practicing yoga for about 20 years now, and I find that it helps me to center myself, to focus. And so for me, it was really important to wake up early to do that so I can, calm my nerves a little bit and get into my zone. So I did that. I made sure I ate breakfast, because the exam is 3 hours long, or the allotted time is 3 hours long. So I made sure I ate a good breakfast. I had a cinnamon raisin bagel with peanut butter on it and a Chobani yogurt with some water. And that kept me satiated for the entire time. I wasn't hungry at all. I think it's because all of the protein. So eat protein when you're going to take a long exam because it'll keep you full longer. Also, on one of Laura Gasparis' video, she said to wear yellow or red, because she said it keeps your mind alert. So I wore like a bright yellow sweater. I don't know if it helped me, but that's what I did. Okay, so the exam itself, it is 150 questions, but 25 of those questions are not scored. However, you don't know which 25 questions are not going to be scored, so you should try to do your best on all the questions. So out of those, 125 are going to be scored, and you need to get 87 questions right in order to pass the exam. I took the test overseas, so I didn't get my test result right away. Unfortunately, I don't know what it is. It was a computer-based test, but out here we just don't get the test results right away. It took exactly 7 days for me to get my test result, and I got it as an email. It said, "Congratulations, you have passed the CCRN exam." If you take the exam in the States, you will get your test result right there at the testing center. So if you're anxious about finding out what you got on the test, I would say if you can, take it in the States. The exam itself is difficult, so you do need to prepare for it. You need to set out a study plan and set some time aside for yourself, some quiet time, so you can get good studying in. If you study and practice lots of questions, you will be prepared to pass the exam. You just have to put the work and the time in. So good luck studying for your CCRN. Thank you so much for watching my videos. Please like, comment, subscribe if you are so well inclined to, and I will see you in my next video. Have a nice day.